take me back, if you would,
Mm-hmm.
to how you put together your reel for the award.
Sure. So it started for me when I was in my senior year at Emerson College, and John Rook, who many of you probably know is the voice of the New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium. He was a professor at Emerson at the time, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey, there's this award that I think you should try to submit for. They do this list of the top 25 collegiate sports broadcasters in the country every year. I think you have a pretty good shot of making the list. Who knows?" And I didn't know about it until he mentioned it. So I just went and took a little bit of what I had done at my internship at Fox 25 in Boston, which is now called Boston 25 News. And that was a sportscast along with stuff that I had done on TV for my college. And I sent it in to John Chalesnik at STAA, and he replied back to me pretty quickly. And I remember him saying, "Hey, I can tell that this is good and that you seem to be good at what you're doing, but I would love to be able to see more. The deadline for the submission isn't until next week. Why don't you take it upon yourself to add more stuff?" Because I basically made my reel in the way that you would send a reel for a job for a TV station, which is quick slices, just short 15, 20-second bits of yourself to get a sense of who you are. But John kind of made it sound like he was more interested in seeing a full-fledged sportscast and a full-fledged package. And so I threw a full sportscast in there and a few stories that I had done. And that was what I ended up sending in. And that's what ended up winning the award.
Do you remember how long it was?
I feel like it was probably somewhere in the ballpark of 10 minutes. I remember it being a 4-minute sportscast from the Fox 25 studios in Boston, and then a series of stand-ups from packages, and then 2 packages that I had done. One was from spring training in Florida, and the other was a story that I helped put together at Fox 25.
Nice. So you send it in, and what were your expectations? How did he announce it that year?
So that was one of the years where he did the live YouTube reveal where he went in reverse order. So, honorable mentions, then 25, and then the top 5. As far as expectations went, I thought I had a good chance of making the list. There had been some friends of mine that had gone to Emerson and were a little older than me that had made the list. People like Nick Hoyt, who's now a sports director in Providence, Rhode Island. He had made the list 2 years prior to me, but there weren't a lot of Emerson people that either knew about it or had submitted, but there was enough of an indication that I knew people doing things like me had made the list in the past. So I thought I would make the list, and it sort of was a weird experience because the way John announced it, he would say, a junior from Syracuse, and then he would say the person's name. So we're going through the list, and at one point he's like, junior, oh, well, that's not me. Junior from Emerson College, okay, well, that's not me, that's somebody else. A friend of mine made the list. And so, none of the prefaces to my name were coming up. So I legitimately thought by the time we got to number 1 that I didn't make the list, which, was such a funny moment when John announced the winner that year. All I remember hearing is a senior from M, and that's all I needed to hear to know that it was from Emerson College, and it had to have been me because there was nobody else it could have been.
The winner of the 2013 Jim Nantz Award as the nation's most outstanding collegiate sports broadcaster is a senior from Emerson College, Ross Lippman. Ross, congratulations.
My brother was with me, and one of my best friends was with me, just so happened to be hanging out in my apartment. I think they picked me up in the air. It was fun. It was a really fun moment.
And then you knew or you found out you were coming to Salisbury for the awards weekend. I've asked everybody, what were your your maybe preconceived notions of what that awards weekend would be like?
Well, it was my first time coming to North Carolina, so I remember being excited about that. I remember being excited about making the plans about how to get down there. My brother and I ended up driving about 18 hours down from Massachusetts to come. I just remember thinking there was going to be a lot of really cool people for me to meet when it comes to trying to find a job, because I was still in the process of doing that. I knew that sports anchors and sports reporters and sports directors on the TV side all over the country were going to be coming and being recognized as their state winners. So I remember thinking, this might be a really good opportunity for me to get to know some people that might end up helping me get a foot in the door in terms of my first job. I don't think it really even occurred to me that I was going to meet some of my sports broadcasting idols in the process. That was sort of a secondary thought.
Like, for instance?
Once I saw that Mitch Albom was going to be inducted that year as the Hall of Fame member as a sports writer, I was really excited about that. I love his books. And so that was one. Bob Costas was another. I ended up meeting him in the bathroom. And I remember saying it was kind of funny. I mean, 3 weeks ago seems like so long ago with everything that's going on. But at one point everyone was saying, just do an elbow bump. Don't shake hands, do an elbow bump. Well, I turned around from washing my hands and walking to wash their hands was Bob Costas. And I remember thinking, I really wanted to meet him, but I don't want to meet him in a bathroom. And I just said, "Oh, Mr. Costas." And he said, "Yes, that's me." And then I said, "Well, I don't think we should probably shake hands in a bathroom." He said, "No, but we can do this." And then he stuck his elbow out to do an elbow bump. So that's how I met Bob Costas, was with an elbow bump in the bathroom.
Nice.
In terms of other people I got to meet, Peter King was probably one of the nicest people I met that weekend. He took such great lengths to talk to me, my brother, and my parents. You mentioned Wes Durham. I knew him. I knew of him. I knew his dad. I didn't know much about him more than just what he had done for a living, but he ended up being just one of the most giving people with his time, and he was such a gracious sort of host for the whole event. And I remember walking away feeling really good having met him and developed a relationship with him. So there was also some people that I met that I was very surprised by having such a positive experience with as well.
So then you're here and you have fun and you spoke, yes?
I did, and I didn't know that was going to happen until the day. John came up to me earlier in the day. He said, "Hey, did you write your speech?" And I said, "What speech?" And he said, "You're speaking tonight." And that was one thing, to find out that you're speaking. But then it was another to find out like when in the night I was going to be speaking, because it's basically they do the national winners. So that year, the National Sports Writer of the Year was Peter King, and the National Sportscaster was Dan Patrick. Then me. Then Mitch Albom as a Hall of Fame inductee as a sports writer, and then closing out the whole night was Dick Vitale. So, you're sort of like the popcorn speech in between for absolute legends. And so that part almost made me feel more nervous than anything else. But I remember, and I don't really remember much about the speech, but I just remember going into it saying, I'm just going to have some thoughts in my head. I'm not going to write anything. And I don't want to take up too much of people's time but yeah, I just remember thinking, I don't want to take up much of people's time. I want to try to come into it with some real humility and just being in the same space as all of these people, and just sort of share the thoughts of a 22-year-old that had been very surprised to win this award.
Family got to come. What was their reaction?
Well, my brother was squeezing this in between him going to Bonnaroo the following weekend in Tennessee. So he drove down with me, and then I ended up dropping him off with some friends, and then he made his way to Bonnaroo afterward. My parents flew in as well. So, the one thing I specifically remember was I finished giving my speech, and I went back to my table, and my mom was crying, and she was just really proud of me, and she just said that she loved me. And, that was a really special thing for me. I believe the first thing I said when I started my speech was that if not for my parents, I wouldn't be the person I am, or something along those lines. So that part was really special. And they were, both my mom and my dad just soaked in watching me interacting with everyone, talking to these people. I mean, I think it was just beyond all of our wildest dreams that at that young of an age in my life, before my professional career even began, that I would be, shoulder to shoulder with so many of the people that really defined the industry that I was able to be a part of.
And then if memory serves me, it wasn't that long before you got a job, Burlington, right?
Yeah, so I was. It did turn from me having to reach out to a lot of people about jobs to then people that I had already reached out to starting to follow up with me. I think the thing that really made the biggest difference was there was an article written about me in the Boston Globe. It was sort of it sort of used me winning the award as a conduit to talk about what a sneaky yet strong sports broadcasting program Emerson College has and still does. And that gained me some attention and some traction. I remember I was in the middle of waiting to hear back from a TV station in Sioux City, Iowa about a job. And I met Mike Donahue, who was a longtime writer for the Burlington Free Press in Burlington, Vermont at the weekend. And we stayed in touch, and he politely pestered the then news director at the ABC Fox affiliate in Burlington, Tracy Davis, who I had applied for a job there and I had not heard back. And it sort of, the timing was sort of interesting. I got offered the job in Sioux City, Iowa, which, if I'm being honest, I wasn't that thrilled about because I'm a New England guy and I just didn't really see myself living in Sioux City, Iowa, all due respect to those that are from the Sioux City, Sioux Falls area. But I got that offer. The money was really bad. And I just remember thinking, I really hope I don't have to take this. And no less than an hour and a half after I got that offer, Tracy, the news director in Vermont at the time, called me and said, "Hey, do you want to come up on Thursday?" And this was on Tuesday. "Do you want to come up on Thursday to visit and interview and all that stuff?" And so Burlington from my house at the time was like 4.5 hours. I drove up. I interviewed with her. I met the sports director, Mike Kirchhoff, who's one of my closest friends still to this day. She offered me the job on the spot, and the rest was, the rest was my future from then on.
No greater feeling, is there?
It was really cool. I remember just afterward, I drove down to like the Lake Champlain waterfront area and I got lunch, and I just remember sitting there, and it was a really beautiful sunny day, and I looked around and I had the contract like right in front of me, and I just remember thinking like, all right, this is, I know this is where I'm going to end up coming. I mean, there was no better situation for me at the time. Still in New England, still close to my family, in a beautiful area, and it was just, it's such a nice feeling to know that all that hard work pays off in such a profound way.
And you spent how long there?
I was there for 2 years, so I fulfilled my my contract there, and then I left without a job lined up, and I paid a price for that. I waited about 2.5 months until I got my next job, which was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania at ABC 27. And that was, if I'm being honest, not the market that I saw myself going to next. I had been applying to a lot of the like Orlando, San Antonio, San Diego type of markets. Like I saw myself the next step going to be with at least a pro team in the market, but it ended up changing my life. I met some amazing people there. I got so much better at my profession. I fell in love with the photojournalism aspect of our line of work through my time at ABC 27. I ended up meeting the person that I'm soon going to be marrying in Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg. It was just such a transformative, important experience. And I now consider the Harrisburg area to be like my second home.
And then next step?
After that, I went to Las Vegas, and I was working at the ABC affiliate there. I admittedly did not spend a very long time there because I ended up coming to some decisions about the direction I wanted to go with, not just my career, but my life, that was going to direct me away from working in sports full time. But while I was in Vegas, I covered the Golden Knights playoff run in their first season, all the way to the Stanley Cup final. I got to see a city fall in love with a franchise over and over and over again. I got to cover stories about the ever-growing logistical situation with the Raiders Stadium and the team eventually going there. It was a cool time to be in Las Vegas, but there was some stuff for me personally that was pointing toward wanting to try something outside of sports in a full-time sense. And so that's sort of where I am now. I'm back in Massachusetts and I work for New England Public Media, which is the local PBS and NPR stations. And there I'm doing some long-form magazine style storytelling, and it's been really enjoyable. But in addition, I still have my foot in the sports world. I freelance at WMUR, which is in New Hampshire. It's the only TV station in New Hampshire, and so I fill in for the two guys there, Jamie Staten and Jason King, when they're either away on vacation or during holidays and stuff. So I still get to anchor, and it's kind of a nice full circle thing for me because I get to, basically go in and do highlights of the sports teams I grew up rooting for, with the Pats and the Sox and the Bruins and the Celtics, and a little bit of college mixed in. So, it certainly has not been totally removed from my life. That's for sure.
So as you look back on now this, 6-7 years since the Nantz Award, go back and tell the 22-year-old you whatever advice you would have with the hindsight of these intervening six years or so.
Yeah, I think I would say not everything has to be so goal oriented and objective oriented. I would say have a little more space in your life to do the things that make you feel fulfilled as an individual. You are defined by much more than your job. You are going to learn a lot about yourself over the next few years, and that's a good thing. Be happy in the moment. Be happy with what it is that you have right now. The more present you remain in the things that you're doing, the more they're going to pay off, and the more you're going to gain experience from them. And I would just say be open to all of the different variables that life will throw at you, because that is definitely unavoidable, and not everything you do is going to be able to be on your terms, and how you adapt to that is really what matters.
Very well said. I appreciate your time, Ross. Thank you very much. Good luck in everything.
Thanks.